first of all, we got to get the room dimmer.
Dimmer.
There, much better. Okay, so I use the top 10 format for my speeches. This is because I've been in Silicon Valley so long. I've seen so many tech speakers, and I can tell you pretty much they all suck. If you're in Silicon Valley long enough, you'll figure that out. So not only do they suck, they go long. It's a bad combination. You know, if you suck and you're short, it's okay. And if you're great and you're long, it's okay. But if you suck and go long, that's like being stupid and arrogant, right? It's just a bad combination, worst case. So I use the top 10 format so that in case you think I suck, you know approximately how much longer I'll suck. I have 10 points. So point number one that I learned about entrepreneurship is that great companies, and the companies that pay for buildings like this at Stanford and endow professorships, they are the result of asking and answering very simple questions. I think many entrepreneurs believe that, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak at the very beginning, they had this vision for 30 years from now, they'll have the most valuable company, the most profitable company, and there'll be computers, and there'll be phones, and there'll be tablets, and there'll be iTunes, and there'll be, app stores, and they had this grand vision. And when Bill Gates started Microsoft, he had this grand vision that someday there'll be operating system, application, there'll be Bing, there'll be Xbox, and they all had this megalomaniac, fantastic, futurist vision. And I think that's all bullshit. That basically, when all these people started the company, they had a very, very simple question, and they answered this question, and lo and behold, they got the answer right, and things just kept rolling, and God only knows, now they're billionaires. So let's ask some questions. So one question would be, therefore what? And the way this works, let's say that you have a vision of how the world will evolve, and then you ask yourself, if this vision is true, therefore, what are the consequences of this vision? So I'll give you an example. So one day, let's say you sit down and you decide, wow, everybody's buying phones, all these phones have cameras, and all these phones are connected to the internet. So you could take pictures, and you could send pictures to other people, you can upload them to the cloud. So you say, all right, so everybody has a phone, everybody has internet, everybody has a good camera, therefore what? And you might conclude, I should create Instagram, I should create Flickr, I should create SmugMug. So the genesis of these kind of companies can be by asking a very simple question. Everybody's going to have a phone with a camera and internet access, therefore what? Therefore, why don't we create Instagram? Another question is, isn't this interesting? So the way this happens is, you're a student or something, you're in a lab, and maybe it's chemistry, and you're trying to create one thing, and your experiment absolutely fails, but the result is nonetheless interesting. And the classic example that's cited for this is 3M. So 3M was trying to make a really strong glue. They made a really weak glue. Isn't it interesting? We made a really weak glue that leaves no trace upon the surface. Therefore, they created Post-it pads, right? Isn't it interesting that we have a really weak glue that leaves no residue? Another question, is there a better way? I believe this is the genesis of Apple. So let's pretend you're Woz and Jobs, and you say, well, to use a computer, you have to go to Stanford, you have to work for a large bank, you have to work for the government. Isn't there a better way? Why can't computers be smaller and cheaper and easier to use? Therefore, you get Apple. Isn't there a better way? Next question is, it's possible, so why don't we try? This is where, also engineering driven, you think, it's kind of possible to make a portable phone. We don't have to have a phone that's connected by copper. We could have a phone that uses radio waves. So, I think this is the attitude that Motorola had. We could build a portable phone. And if you asked people, would you like a portable phone? Back then, no one would say yes, because phone was something you went to. It was connected to a wire. So how could you possibly appreciate the fact that you could have a phone unconnected to a wire? Probably nobody said, yeah, build me a cell phone, right? But the Motorola engineers said, wow, we could do it, so why don't we try? And the next thing you know, you have a cell phone. Second thing, I'm sure every one of you are familiar with the work of Eric Ries, the Minimal Viable Product, MVP. I think that's a fantastic concept. but I would like to add 2 more V's to MVP. The first one is, of course, minimum. That is, just good enough to get out, right? You want to rush it to market. You want to really see what people will react to, how they will react, as opposed to trying to create something perfect. But the first V is the one he already uses, viable. So it has to be minimally, but it also has to be viable. That you can make a buck on it. You can sell it for more than it costs. The V I would add first is valuable. That is, something could be viable. You could make money on it, but it's not necessarily valuable. Not necessarily something that makes the world a better place. And in the long run, if you expect a company to survive, it has to be more than viable. It has to be valuable. And the second V that I would add is validating. That is, it reflects your vision of how the world will evolve. So I will use an Apple example. So let's say that Apple decides today to sell printers again. Okay? So would an Apple labeled printer be viable? Absolutely. Apple could slap an Apple logo on any printer from Canon and people would buy it. They would buy it because it's Apple. They would buy it because, Johnny Ive will do some kind of video where he says, well, this is a revolutionary new printer. We noticed that people really would like to express themselves. And we went back to our labs and we decided, well, people are not content with merely ephemeral, dynamic, temporary manifestations of their thoughts. They really want to put it on paper. So we decided to create a laser printer. Revolution, right? You can see Sir Johnny Ive doing that kind of video. Total bullshit. And so it would be viable. People would buy it. Apple could sell a printer today for more than it costs to make. No question. But is it valuable? Right? Does an Apple labeled printer make the world a better place? Hard to make that case. What are the Apple labeled pixels going to be more square? They're going to be a deeper, darker, beautiful form of black. What's going to be valuable about that new kind of Apple printer? And then finally, does it validate anything? Like, what part of Apple's vision about connectivity, about productivity, about a better world is going to be validated by Apple selling a printer? Nothing. So I would make a case that, an Apple labeled printer is not MVVVP. It might be minimal, it might be viable in its product, but it is not valuable or validated. So what I think entrepreneurs should do is they need to create something that's viable, valuable, and validated. So I added 2 V's to the MVP concept. The third concept is, I think entrepreneurs, and I hope you hammer this into them, an entrepreneur gets going. An entrepreneur doesn't spend weeks and weeks with PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. The killer app of entrepreneurship is not Microsoft Office. The killer app of an entrepreneur is a compiler. It's Java. It's Python. It's some engineering thing. It is a prototype. It is not about planning. So how do you get going? First, you have to come to grips with the fact that you're probably going to create something that's going to make you cringe. That's going to make you regret doing this some years from now. And I look at the Mac 128K, and listen, I was affiliated with that computer, but sometimes I just look at that and I just cringe. I mean, 128K of RAM. It had no software thanks to my efforts. It had only a 400K floppy drive. We were working on a secret hard disk that was going to be magnificent. It had 5 megabytes, not gigabytes, megabytes, right? And I look at that and I say, oh my God, what were we thinking? Why would we make something like that? So I cringe at that. And yet, it was a fantastic, revolutionary product. My first book, The Macintosh Way, very popular book to this day, but I cringe when I look at that. I look at the crudeness of my writing. So you have to just come to grips with the fact that you're probably going to do something cringeworthy. And I would make the case that the entrepreneurs who can look back and cringe at version 1, they're the lucky ones. Because if you can look back and cringe, it means you're still in business. If you cannot look back and cringe at version 1, it means you're gone. So just come to grips with you will cringe. Number 2 is you need to find someone who's a complementary soulmate. So there's 2 important words in here, complementary and soul. Okay? So complementary means that you have to have a team that can do the basic functions. And if everybody was an engineer, then there's nobody to sell. And if everybody can sell, then who's going to make it? Right? So fundamentally in a startup, there's only 2 real functions. You got to make it and you got to sell it. That's it. That's it. No biz dev, no strategic, nothing. It's make and sell. So you need people who complement each other. Was and jobs, right? Was can make it, jobs can sell it. Jobs can't make it, was can't sell it. They complement each other. And then as far as the word soul, soul means that you need to have people who are on the same page. That if one founder thinks of this as just a side project, the other founder thinks that this is the core of his or her existence, you're not on the same page. If one person views that personal computers are going to revolutionize the world, and another believes that personal computers are merely front-end to mainframe computers, you're not on the same page. You need to have a sharing of your vision, sharing of your opinion of how the world will evolve. Third quality is you need to make a mantra. When you get going, a mantra is a 2 or 3 word explanation for why your product, your service, your company, your academic program should exist. Okay? Not a mission statement, not 15, 20, 30, 50 words, 2 or 3 words. The mantra for why I exist is I empower people. That's it, 2 words. That's why I exist, empower people. More mantras. I would make the case that Apple democratized computing, eBay democratized commerce, Google democratized information, Canva democratizes design. I'm not saying everything is democracy, but that's the kind of word. I would say that FedEx stands for peace of mind. If you absolutely positively want something someplace, it's FedEx, right? Wendy's, a fast food restaurant in America, they're trying to make healthy fast food. So, their mantra should be healthy fast food. Many, many companies, many institutions, and I hope you never teach this, try to get people to create a mission statement. And the mission statement is often trying to serve too many purposes. So typical mission statement is, we exist to create patent-pending, curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting products that enable our employees to self-actualize their life goals while providing a reasonable return to our shareholders while killing as few dolphins and porpoises as possible. Okay? That's a typical mission statement. And, nobody can remember that. No one knows what organization it applies to. I hope when you hear the words empower people, you think Kawasaki. When you think peace of mind, you think FedEx. When you think authentic athletic performance, you think Nike. Okay? When you think democratize knowledge, you think Wikipedia. When you think democratize design, you think Canva. Right? 2 or 3 words. Next thing is you need to define a business model, because at some level, every institution has to make money. First thing, you have to be very specific with your business model. I think many institutions teach business model incorrectly. They talk about these sort of mega trends in enterprise software, and our customer is the Fortune 500. That's way too general. The right approach is to think of, in a sense, I advocate that you think like a pickpocket. Okay, so pickpocket doesn't see the potential for stealing money from the massive influx of tourism. Okay? A pickpocket looks at one person and says, that person has my money in his wallet. And I'm going to get my money out of his wallet and put it into my wallet. So I want you to think like a pickpocket. Like, who specifically has your money temporarily? And your job is to get that money. Be specific. Next thing is to keep it simple. I think the place you innovate is your technology, maybe your service, your pricing, anything like that. But innovating on a business model, I think, is really, really a challenge. This is 2015, so for the past several thousand years, I think we figured out almost every business model. You could make the case that Mark Benioff and Salesforce.com figured out a new business model, renting software. But boy, I struggle to think of some kind of, radical new business model. So I would suggest you try to work yourself within the existing business models. It could be simply selling something. It could be leasing something. It could be renting software. It could be freemium. It could be in-app purchase. I mean, there's like 10 or 15 of these things. Trying to invent a new business model is too tough. I think it's hard enough to create an innovative product or service, and then trying to create an innovative product or service and a business model that people can understand and will embrace. It's too hard. And the third recommendation is, when you come up with an idea for a business model, you should ask women about the business model.
Yes.
The reason why I don't think you should ask men is because men have a fundamental flaw. We all want to kill things. And so, men want to kill people, they want to kill plants, they want to kill animals, they want to kill products, they want to kill companies. Men just love to kill stuff. It's in our DNA. And so, when you ask somebody, is this a good business model? We want to kill Microsoft, we want to kill YouTube, we want to kill Snapchat, we want to kill Stanford, we want to kill Apple. Every man will say yes, because men cannot resist the temptation to kill stuff. Women, by contrast, do not have this fundamental flaw. So, you should ask women about your business idea, not men. Don't waste your time with men. Number 5 is what I call weave a mat. And weave a mat means that at the beginning of a company, it's just a great time because you get to design your logo, and you get to create your name, and you find your domain, and you don't have any crappy employees yet because you don't have any employees yet, and you have no install base to carry. You don't have to worry about backward compatibility. You have none of all the garbage that happens, for the next few decades if you succeed. So it's a beautiful time. And during this beautiful time, I think it's very easy to start doing the wrong things. Like, you do the fun things, like ordering furniture and designing logos. And that is not at all crucial to success of a company. So what is a MAT? The M in MAT stands for milestones. So most important concept, what are the milestones of this company? And a very good test for a milestone is, would you call up your spouse and tell your spouse that you achieved this thing, right? So would you call up your spouse and say, today I went to Kinko's and I ordered stationery. Right? That's not something you would write home about. It's not something you brag about. I am such a great entrepreneur. I ordered stationery today. Okay? It's not a milestone. A milestone is, honey, today we finished the spec. Today we shipped. Today we collected our first revenue. That's a milestone. So worry about the milestones first. Then you have to come up with the assumptions of your business. Are you assuming that you're going to get 10% of the people in China to visit your website? Not a good assumption. Are you assuming that a salesperson can make 10 sales calls a day? Not a good assumption. What are the assumptions in your business? The next thing is that you have to actually test stuff. You have to launch your site. You have to start testing your assumptions. And finally, that's when you start doing tasks. Tasks are things that either enable you to create tests, enable you to check assumptions, all towards gaining progress towards a milestone. So this is the pecking order of the priorities of a startup. Next thing is you need to plant many seeds. It used to be in tech startups that it was a pyramid, and at the top of the pyramid was, in America, like the Wall Street Journal, right? So the Wall Street Journal, every Thursday there was a technical piece, and they would discuss new products. So if the Wall Street Journal said that people should use your spreadsheet, your camera, your phone, your car, whatever it is, you were made. That was it. That's all it took. I don't think that's true anymore. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore the Wall Street Journal, but the Wall Street Journal only has 52 issues that covers tech. Guess what? It's 52 shots a year for all the technology and products and services in the company, okay? In the country, in the world, really. So what you have to do now is you have to believe that social media has probably inverted the pyramid. And now, rather than the Wall Street Journal telling the great on launch masses what to do, I think today, the great unwashed masses, they adopt something and they tell the Wall Street Journal what to write about. So which comes first? The Wall Street Journal tells you to use Snapchat, so you use Snapchat, or Snapchat gains 50 million users, and the Wall Street Journal figures out, my God, we better cover Snapchat. I think it's the opposite today, right? It's the bottom of the pyramid is telling the top of the pyramid what to do. So number one, you have to get out of the office, because now planting many seeds, Snapchat, introducing a new product, it's not about just a rifle shot at the Wall Street Journal. You have to really get your stuff out. Number two, you need to tell a story. There's so many companies where the CEO stands up and says, I am patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting product or service. They're enterprise class, scale, right? Every CEO says that. And it's as if every other CEO doesn't realize that every CEO says that. So, the next CEO comes up on stage, says the same damn thing. Everybody uses the same adjective. Patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting, enterprise class, scalable. Everybody says that. If everybody said, I have a piece of crap that's buggy, hard to use, and cannot scale, then if you said scalable, patent pending, curve jumping, you would be different. Then you might succeed. But everybody says the same damn thing. So what I suggest is that you tell a story. So let me tell you some stories. One story would be the Apple story, right? We're so frustrated, we couldn't use a computer unless we went to HP, or we went to Stanford, or we worked for the government, and we thought surely there must be a better, faster, cheaper, easier way to get a computer, so we created Apple. Or we were computer science students at Stanford, and we thought there must be a better way to search. So we thought, now what's a good proxy for quality? Number of inbound links. So we created Google. Or my girlfriend wanted to sell her Pez dispensers online. She was a toy collector. There was no way for her to do it. So I created eBay. Okay? It's a total bullshit story that eBay started, but it is a great story. Tell a story. That's how you introduce a product. Next thing, provide a safe, easy first step, which means, it's not actually changed. This is an error. Did you notice this error? Okay, so notice it's get out of the office and tell a story, and then the next slide should be get out of the office, tell a story, and then provide a safe, easy first step. But these two were reversed. I gotta fix that. See, if you're a really confident speaker, you can not only blow past mistakes, you can point them out. So that's a mistake. Provide a safe, easy first step means that if you're asking people to try something new, you have to give them a really easy path. You need a really slippery slope. If you were introducing a new database, you don't tell people, well, our database is so great, patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting database, that you'll just have to rekey all your information. No. You tell them that you can read other database formats. You tell them that we can accept, comma delimited text exports. There's a safe, easy path. Next thing is you need to hire infected people. And by this I mean that you need to ignore the irrelevant. And so many people in startups, they make hiring decisions based on two primary factors, education and work experience. I would like to add a third, which is, does the person get it? Does the person love what we do? And enough passion and enough love for what you do, I think, can render work experience and educational background irrelevant, or at least much less important. So in my personal case, I have an undergraduate degree in psychology from this institution. The reason why I majored in psychology at Stanford is at the time I was here, that was the easiest major, I assure you. After Stanford, I went to law school for 2 weeks and quit, and then I got an MBA from UCLA. While I was working at UCLA, I started working for a jewelry manufacturer. After UCLA, I went to work for a jewelry manufacturer. I worked in the jewelry business for 5 years. So if you look at my background, I'm absolutely not qualified to work for Apple, right? Psych major who comes from the jewelry business. Not exactly the pedigree you want for the Macintosh division to evangelize software companies to write Mac software. But what was my saving grace and what enabled me to succeed is that when I saw Macintosh, man, it was a freaking religious experience. All of you are too young to probably realize, but you know, back then in 1980 or 1983 and 4, the state of the art of graphics was, you know, you used X's and O's to make a graph. I mean, and if you were lucky, you had a terminal that had 80 columns. There was no mouse, there was no color, there was no graphics, there was no bitmaps, there was no, you know, printing. Printing was a Selectric typewriter ball. It was a long time ago. And if you saw Macintosh for the first time, it was a religious experience. And that's why I succeeded, because Macintosh was a religion for me. So I'm asking you to ignore two things. One is the presence of a great background, great education, if the person clearly does not get what you do. So you could have a PhD in computer science, spend 10 years working for Google, perfect background for what you do, but when you show the product to the person, if their eyes don't light up, if they don't get it, I would advise you not to hire that person. On the flip side, if you show a product to a person and that person clearly gets it, it is a religious experience for that person, then maybe you should look past the fact that he is merely a psych major who has been in the jewelry manufacturing company. Okay? Ignore the irrelevant. Next thing is, you should always hire better than yourself. The Macintosh division had a saying that A players hire A players, B players hire C players, C players hire D players, right? So if you are really, really a great entrepreneur, you hire people who are better than yourself. If you are an engineering person, you hire someone who's better than you in sales. Because if you're an engineering person and you hire people who are less good than you in sales, you are really screwed. Because you're probably a very bad salesperson. So if you hire someone who's worse than you as a salesperson, you are never going to make a sale. Okay? You need to hire people who are better than yourself. And the last thing is to apply the shopping center test. So how long have you been here already?
3 days.
Oh, 3 days. Wow. Have you gone outside of Stanford? Or have you? No? Will you be going outside of Stanford?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you staying on campus? Where do you stay? In dorms here?
Around this.
Hotels?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody staying at the Stanford Park Hotel? No? West? Where are you? Downtown Palo Alto?
Seeing Stanford Terrace.
Where?
Right.
Oh, you poor thing. I want to suggest to you that you take one trip to the Stanford Shopping Center. And be sure you go to the Apple Store. In fact, a very good experience for you is go to the Apple Store and go to the Microsoft Store. And you'll learn a lot just doing that. You'll just trust me. Trust me. And also, be sure you go to Fry's. Fry's is an all-electronics store here. To truly understand the valley, you need to stop at Fry's. Okay? But anyway, so the shopping center test is you go to Stanford and you see someone who's applying for a job at your company. But that person has not yet seen you. Okay? So like, let's say I'm standing here and I see her and she's applying to Stanford, she's applying to my company, but she hasn't seen me yet. So at that point, you apply the shopping center test. So one reaction is, I see her, I just go straight up to her and I say, I know you're interviewing at our company. We're just freaking kicking butt at our company. You got to join our company. We're going to make history. We're going to make Google seem like a rounding error. We're going to be more valuable than Alpha. You got to join us. Okay, that's one reaction. Second reaction is, well, Stanford Shopping Center is not that big. If I happen to actually get face to face to her, I'll say hello. Third reaction is I'm going to get in my car and go to another shopping center. Okay? So the shopping center test is in a startup because a startup is a family, probably a dysfunctional family, but a family. The shopping center test should be if you see someone who's interviewing at your company and they haven't seen you, your reaction better be I'm going to go straight to her and say hello. That's the shopping center test. Okay? That's the third step. Okay. Next point is to become a socialist. And I don't mean socialist in the sense of East Germany socialists. I mean a socialist in terms of social media. because social media is the best thing that has ever happened to entrepreneurs. Because it has made marketing cheap, it has made marketing accessible, and it has made marketing really, I think, a meritocracy. The content is king for marketing today. And so you need